he got jealous of me because I didn't break my nose or anything like that. He would kind of just beat me up, kick me in the body, or...
He's played war machines, assassins, and cold-blooded slayers, but Dolph Lundgren's real-life grudges might be more brutal than anything he's done on screen. In this video, he finally breaks the silence on 5 actors who push him too far. This isn't just about bruised egos or creative tension. We're talking on-set meltdowns, icy standoffs, and one infamous stare-down that nearly turned into a full-on fight. One of the actors attempted to rewrite his film halfway through shooting. So, who found themselves on Dolph's no-go list? Stay tuned. The names will surprise you, and the reasons go deeper than a roundhouse kick. Number 5. Jean-Claude Van Damme. When it comes to screen adversaries, few are as physically imposing or present as Jean-Claude Van Damme. But backstage, the actual fireworks weren't fists or roundhouse kicks. They were clashing egos, broken commitments, and an alpha showdown that's been going on for decades. Dolph Lundgren and Van Damme may have been brutal foes on the big screen, but the reality is the tension was very real, and it began as soon as Universal Soldier had them team up in 1992. Both men were action heroes with global fan followings back then. Van Damme was riding high on the success of Bloodsport and Kickboxer, with his trademark high kicks and smirk making him a staple of the martial arts film fanbase. Lundgren, on the other hand, was the quiet giant, perhaps best known for his landmark role as Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. When producers paired them as arch-rival super soldiers in Universal Soldier, it was being sold as the ultimate showdown. But whereas the script did demand a futuristic grudge match, actual tension began between takes, long before the cameras rolled. From early on, Van Damme and Lundgren were not in sync with one another. Behind the scenes, Van Damme was reportedly a volatile performer who ad-libbed continually and showed up late, always trying to get more camera time, whereas Lundgren was extremely disciplined in his work and flawless and military-like when it came to acting. The difference could not be more stark. Members of the crew remember that Dolph kept the production as militaristic, call times, professionalism, and respect. Van Damme, he treated it like a bash. And that was one reason for tension. The other was a struggle for dominance. Both of the men were desperate to be the top star, and there was only space for one. Tension grew in 1992 at the Cannes Film Festival premiere of Universal Soldier, with what should have been a celebratory occasion devolving into tabloid shenanigans. The cameras focused on the action as Van Damme suddenly summoned Dolph for a battle in front of an enormous crowd. There are different accounts of exactly what Van Damme uttered, but the gist was the same. He was demanding to decide things there and then. Van Damme is said to have challenged Dolph to a street brawl in front of the shocked press. Unfazed and massive, Dolph strode up close, and the two men were roughly parted. The staring contest was in full view of the Feuds. The video of the near brawl was spread across the tabloids. What was supposed to be a flawless press tour turned out to be a PR nightmare, or the ultimate action movie promotion, depending on whom you ask. The tension did eventually die down after Cannes. Little was said for the following couple of years on public platforms between the two regarding the incident, but according to sources, there was a grudge. The second collaboration after this was on the Expendables 2 in 2012, 2 decades after Universal Soldier. By then, both men were older, a little mellower, and possibly a little more willing to collaborate with each other. But even so, from some of the crew's accounts, there were also old habits that proved difficult to change. Van Damme wanted it his way. Dolph wanted it his way. And as much as the two men went about the production together without ever once getting into public altercations, those on the set that day were well aware that tensions remained simmering beneath the surface. Since then, Dolph Lundgren has spoken more about the working professional relationship between Lundgren and his opposite. He has been restrained in speaking his mind through interviews. He calls intense and emotional, but normally with the inspiration of ego, the humorous side of working with Van Damme. In interviews, while being asked if he enjoys working with Van Damme, it is typically followed by hesitation, then a very guarded selection of words by Lundgren prior to responding. He does not badmouth Van Damme, yet he does not offer him praise either. Silence speaks volumes there. Actually, you could not find two more polar opposites. That is, in the sense of market action hero. He is bluster, bravado, and high-octane energy. The spectacle man, whirlwind kicks, and smart-alecky one-liners. Lundgren defines strength, dominance, and subtle menace. He doesn't have to yell. His presence speaks loud enough. Place two in the same room, and fireworks would undoubtedly fly. Mutual respect was never going to be part of the package, at least not back then. What they had instead was a rivalry. A scene where both men refused to give way. The Universal Soldier fans would argue their chemistry was electric, and they would be right as rain. That explosive, vicious, and brutal fight at the end felt more like reality than anything else in the film, as if the climax itself is unfolding behind the camera. If we look at it this way, perhaps the tension was beneficial to the film, but it also created a wedge between two men who might have otherwise been friends in a genre where loyalty and reciprocal backpatting are the standard. Now, decades later, it looks absurd. The public posturing, the almost fighting, the searing glares. But then, it was about pride. And for Lundgren, that left Van Damme indelibly marked on his list of least favorite actors, not for the single fight, but the trend, dishonor, disrespect, and ignorance of knowing when to retreat. Whether they were enemies in reality or merely perceived as such, one thing was certain. To Dolph, Jean-Claude Van Damme was a screen antagonist and an off-screen storm he never wished to encounter again. If you thought this rivalry is fierce, just wait till you hear who topped Dolph's list. Number 4. Steven Seagal. If there were a Hall of Fame for tough co-stars in Hollywood, Steven Seagal would probably have his own wing. For Dolph Lundgren, starring with Seagal wasn't merely annoying, it was maddening. Although they never appeared together in a leading role in a big-budget film, they crossed paths frequently enough to ignite a building anger that never really dissipated. To Dolph, Seagal was not merely another action star colleague. He was a walking manifestation of everything that would go awry when talent is overtaken by ego. The tension began not on set, but in the close-knit world of martial arts and action communities in the late 80s and early 90s. Both men possessed actual fighting credentials. Dolph, a European karate champion and genuine black belt. Seagal, an Aikido master with his own dojo in Japan. And yet while Dolph bore his achievements with modest pride, Seagal insisted on trumpeting to the world how deadly he was. It was not unusual for Seagal to gloat about his alleged CIA connections or boast that he could kill a man in seconds. To Lundgren, who prized discipline, humility, and hard-won respect, this sort of dialogue sounded like posturing, and it grated on him from the outset. Dysfunction-prone, they glowed together at the various industry functions, interviews, and panel for the promotion of the golden era action films. Seagal would always steal the conversation and toss into turmoil everyone's discussion, using it to his advantage. On very few occasions did he think about the fact that the guy sitting next to him had contributed immensely to the genre. Instead, he'd call other stars kids playing dress-up, a not-so-subtle jab Lundgren did miss. When at some point questioned about Seagal's demeanor on a press junket, Dolph merely shrugged, his lips tightly closed. Some people like the tone of their voice, and others get down to business. In one of the more less-than noble gatherings to talk about a possible ensemble action movie in the early 2000s, other action heroes worked together. It was a venture that never went anywhere, and many blamed Seagal. There were reports from crew members that Seagal demanded script control, wouldn't lose any fight on screen, and wouldn't let any other actor even appear to be stronger than him in the movie. Dolph was to co-star with Seagal, but when he learned of the clauses Seagal was trying to add to his contracts, he just walked away. He was reported to have said, "I have fought tougher opponents in real life, and they didn't need lighting cues or stunt doubles to win." Seagal had stunt teams make things worse for him. Whereas Seagal allegedly bullied stunt crews in physical staging of scenes, Dolph was his opposite. He was courteous and cooperative. Over the years, various stunt performers have testified that Seagal occasionally crossed the line in fight scenes, using actual joint locks or hitting with more than adequate force. While some referred to it as his commitment to realism, others recognized it for what it was, dangerous and reckless. Dolph, after years of honing control in martial arts, believed that of all things, causing pain to props was one. He continued to include, "If you hurt people doing a performance, you're not a martial artist. You're just a bully with a camera crew." There was, aside from physical demeanor, the element of attitude. Seagal was notoriously described as having put himself out of sight of both cast and crew on film productions, flying in entourages, insisting on having his own trailers with security personnel, and speaking about himself in the third person. Dolph, naturally low maintenance and consummate producer type, was tired of diva antics. The producers approached him with a proposal to act with Seagal in an action film on medium budget filmed in Eastern Europe, and Dolph did not take long before rejecting it, flatly saying, "I don't work with people who think the script revolves around their aura." The tension increased during the initial stages of planning to make a sequel for The Expendables. The assemblage franchise feeds on the legacy established by bringing two of the greatest action stars together in a single picture, yet not everyone gets an invite to the party. Word was that he was in the mix as